Prince and the Fairy Duel. The kingdom of Eldoria had always been a land of quiet marvels, rolling emerald hills, rivers that shimmered like spun glass, and forests whose depths no mortal dared to fully explore. Yet, for all its beauty, the kingdom lived under a shadow, a curse as old as its foundations. It was said that the skies above Eldoria mirrored the state of the unseen Vale, the realm of the fairies, whose quarrels spilled over into mortal life in the form of droughts and storms. Prince Cael had heard the stories from his childhood nursemaids, the whispers of a broken promise, an ancient rift between two great fairy clans, the summer and the winter. But to him, these were the idle tales of an older generation, told to keep children from wandering into the woods after dark until the night before his coronation. The castle hummed with preparation as the prince wandered its labyrinthine halls, seeking solitude from the overwhelming weight of expectation. His coronation was not just a ceremony, it was a declaration that he would uphold the kingdom's fragile stability. The moonlight, pale and cold, streamed through the tall windows, casting long, jagged shadows that seemed to follow him. It was then that he noticed it, a faint glimmer of light emanating from behind an ornate tapestry depicting the founding of Eldoria. Drawn by curiosity, Cael pulled it aside, revealing a hidden door. It creaked open with reluctance, revealing a spiral staircase winding downward, its stones worn smooth by time. He descended cautiously, the air growing colder and heavier with each step. At the bottom, he found himself in a forgotten library, its shelves groaning under the weight of dusty tomes. In the center of the room lay a pedestal, and upon it rested a book bound in weathered leather. The title, embossed in gold, read, "The Oath of the Ancestors." Cael's breath caught. His tutors had spoken of this book, but it was thought lost long ago, perhaps even mythical. With trembling hands, he opened it. The parchment crackled, and an unnatural light seemed to spill from the words themselves. The story within was both familiar and strange. It spoke of the early days of Eldoria, when mortal and fairy lived in harmony, bound by a sacred oath. The summer and winter clans had gifted the kingdom their blessings, ensuring bountiful harvests and temperate seasons. But the jewel of their pact, the Ember Stone, had been shattered by betrayal. The text grew fragmented, as though parts of it had been deliberately erased, leaving only the prophecy. When skies darken and the veil falters, a child of royal blood must mend what was broken. Only in uniting what is divided shall the land know peace again. As he read, the air in the library grew electric, and the shadows seemed to ripple like water. A whisper, soft and lilting, brushed against his ear. "Prince Cael," it murmured, the voice neither male nor female, but something in between. "Your time has come." Startled, he turned, but the room was empty. Yet the whisper persisted. threading through his thoughts like a melody. It spoke of the Whispering Woods, the boundary between the mortal world and the Vale, where the answers he sought would lie. When he finally emerged from the hidden library, the castle seemed eerily quiet. The grand halls felt cavernous, and the night air was thick with the scent of impending rain. As he gazed out a window, the sky churned with unnatural clouds, and distant thunder growled like a waking beast. The prophecy was no tale, no idle superstition. The Vale was faltering, and the burden to restore it had fallen squarely on his shoulders. By dawn, the prince had made his decision. Clad in a cloak of deep blue, the color of the night sky, he slipped past the castle gates, leaving the comfort of the known behind. The Whispering Woods awaited him, alive with secrets older than his kingdom and dangers that no mortal could hope to comprehend. What lay ahead, he did not know, but as the first rays of light pierced the horizon, a strange calm settled over him. He was no longer just a prince. He was a piece of something far greater, a pawn in an ancient game whose rules he was only beginning to understand. And so, with steady steps, Cael disappeared into the forest, the faint whisper of the Vale guiding him onward. The Whispering Woods loomed ahead like a dark curtain, a jagged border between the world of mortals and the mysteries of the Vale. Its trees stretched impossibly high, their gnarled branches twisting together to form a canopy so dense it swallowed sunlight. The air near its edge was thick and damp, heavy with an otherworldly stillness. Prince Cael stood before the forest, his resolve tested by the sight of its shadowed depths. Stories of the woods had filled his childhood, tales of travelers who entered and were never seen again, or those who returned changed, their eyes hollow and their memories fractured. Yet, as he stepped beneath its ancient boughs, he felt not fear, but a strange sense of belonging, as though the forest had been waiting for him all along. The ground was soft and mossy, muffling his footsteps as he ventured deeper. Around him, the trees whispered not with the sound of leaves rustling, but with voices, faint, melodic, and fragmented. They seemed to call his name, though he could not discern the words. Cael. The sound was like a sigh carried on the wind, rising and falling, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. He paused, straining to listen, but the voices faded into the stillness. As he moved forward, the forest seemed to shift, its paths winding in ways that defied logic. One moment, he was certain he was following a straight trail. The next, the path curved, leading him in circles. The air grew colder, and the shadows deepened, as though the forest itself was testing his resolve. Hours passed, or perhaps only moments. Time had a strange way of folding in on itself here. Just as Cael began to feel the weight of uncertainty creeping in, a soft, golden light appeared in the distance, flickering like a candle. Cautiously, he approached the light, and as he drew near, he saw its source, a figure seated on a moss-covered stone, radiating warmth like the sun breaking through storm clouds. The figure was a fairy, unmistakably so, with wings that shimmered like molten gold and hair that glowed with the brilliance of dawn. She looked up as he approached, her amber eyes locking with his. "You are brave, mortal prince, to step into these woods uninvited," she said, her voice like a harp's song, light yet commanding. "Few enter, and fewer leave, unchanged." "I was summoned," Kael replied, his tone steady despite the awe the fairy inspired. "The Vale is failing, and my kingdom suffers for it. I seek to restore what was broken." "Either." The fairy tilted her head, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Summon, or guided by forces you do not yet understand." She stood, her movements fluid and graceful, her wings catching the faint light of the forest. "I am Liora, of the Summer Clan. If you have truly come to heal the rift, you will need to hear the truth of our sorrow." Before Kael could respond, the forest seemed to darken further, and a chill swept through the air. From the shadows emerged another figure, tall and foreboding. His presence was the antithesis of Leora's warmth. His wings, dark as obsidian, his eyes like frost-covered steel. "Do not let her deceive you, Prince," the newcomer said, his voice deep and resonant. "I am Kaelthar, of the Winter Clan. The summer fairies would have you believe they are victims, but it was they who sought to control the Vale and betrayed the sacred oath." Leora's golden glow flared brighter as she turned to Kaelthar, her expression sharp. "It was your people who shattered the Ember Stone and cast us into endless conflict, and it was your greed that led to its breaking," Kaelthar countered, his tone colder than ice. Their voices rose, clashing like storm winds and fire, and Kael felt the weight of centuries of resentment pressing down on him. Yet, beneath their anger, he sensed something deeper: sorrow, loss, and perhaps even a longing for peace. "Enough!" Kael's voice cut through their argument like a blade. Both fairies turned to him, surprised by the strength in his tone. "I did not come here to be a pawn in your quarrel. If you truly wish to end this feud, you will guide me to the truth, not drown me in accusations." For a moment, neither fairy spoke. Then, reluctantly, Liora and Kaelthar exchanged glances. "The truth lies in the Shimmering Court," Liora said, her voice softer now. "But be warned, mortal. It is a place of beauty and danger, where nothing is as it seems. And trust no one," Kaelthar added, his gaze piercing. "Not even us." The two fairies stepped back, their wings shimmering faintly as they motioned for Kael to follow. Together, the three of them disappeared deeper into the forest, the trees closing behind them as though erasing their passage. Ahead, the path to the Shimmering Court awaited, a journey that would test not only Kael's courage, but also the very nature of his heart. The forest began to change as Prince Cael followed Liora and Kaelthar deeper into its ancient heart. The air grew thinner, tinged with a faint, sweet fragrance that made his thoughts swim. The trees, so dark and foreboding before, now glimmered faintly, their bark threaded with veins of silver light. The ground beneath his feet felt less like soil and more like glass, smooth and cold. It was as if he were stepping out of his world and into another entirely. "This is the threshold," Liora murmured, her golden wings casting soft glows on the dim path. "The Shimmering Court lies ahead," Kaelthar said, his voice low and edged with caution. "Tread carefully, Prince. The court does not suffer fools." As they continued, the forest gave way to a vast clearing bathed in twilight, though no sun or moon hung in the sky. In the center stood the Shimmering Court, a structure unlike anything Cael had imagined. It was not built, but grown, its walls formed of crystalline branches that spiraled upward in impossible patterns, refracting light into dazzling hues. The entire palace seemed alive, pulsing faintly as though it had a heartbeat of its own. Fairies moved about the court, their forms radiant and varied, some small and delicate, with wings like dragonflies, others tall and commanding, their bodies shimmering as if carved from precious stone. Yet their movements were tense, their gazes sharp. The air thrummed with a tension that Cael could almost taste. A simmering conflict held just barely in check. As they approached the grand archway of the court, two figures emerged to meet them. Queen Solara of the Summer Clan was as radiant as the dawn, her gown woven from golden threads that seemed to ripple like fire. Her eyes glowed amber, warm yet piercing, and her very presence seemed to banish the chill in the air. Opposite her stood King Umbrael of the Winter Clan, a figure of imposing grace. His robes were deep as the night sky, encrusted with frost that sparkled like diamonds. His gaze was cold and calculating, his movements deliberate, as though every step was part of a carefully planned strategy. "Mortals do not belong here," Umbrael said, his voice a glacial whisper that carried effortlessly across the space. "Why have you brought him, Kaelthar?" "He is the one foretold in the prophecy," Kaelthar replied, his tone even but edged with defiance. "And you would dare place your hopes in a mortal?" Solara countered, turning her piercing gaze on Liora. "The prince is but flesh and bone. How can he mend what your clan destroyed?" Liora stepped forward, her light intensifying. "He is not just a mortal. He is the descendant of the line that swore the oath. He carries the blood of those who once united us. Would you condemn him before he has even spoken?" The tension between the monarchs was palpable, their silent enmity a force in itself. Finally, they turned their eyes to Cael, and he felt the weight of their scrutiny, as if their very gaze could strip him bare and expose every secret of his heart. "I have come to restore the balance," Cael said, his voice steady despite the tremor of energy in the air. "The conflict between your clans has bled into my kingdom, and the prophecy has led me here. If there is a way to mend the rift, I will find it." Solara arched a delicate brow, while Umbrael's expression remained cold, unreadable. "The rift cannot be mended with words," Mortal, Umbriel said. The Ember Stone was shattered by betrayal. Its fragments remain, each held by a clan as a token of distrust. To restore the balance, the fragments must be reunited. But such a union cannot occur without the ritual of accord, Solara added, her tone laced with skepticism. A duel between champions to determine which clan holds the greater claim to peace. A duel, Cael repeated, his mind racing. And if one champion falls, their fragment of the Ember Stone is forfeit, Umbriel replied coldly, and the clan they represent loses its place in the Vale forever. Cael's stomach churned. The ritual of accord was not a means of peace, but a test of might, one that would only deepen the wounds of the past. No, he said, his voice firm. This cannot be the way. The prophecy spoke of unity, not victory. There must be another path. Solara's gaze softened slightly, though it held a trace of pity. And what would you propose, mortal? That trust be born from the ashes of betrayal? Yes, Cael said, meeting her gaze with unflinching resolve. If trust is the only way to mend what was broken, then let the ritual test that, not strength. For a moment, the court was silent, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Then, Umbriel's lips curled into a faint, frosty smile. Very well, Prince. If you wish to change the rules of an ancient ritual, you must prove yourself worthy of the trust you demand. The monarchs exchanged a glance, and a silent understanding passed between them. The duel would proceed, but its true nature was now veiled in mystery, a test not of blades or magic, but of something far more fragile and dangerous. As the court's crystalline walls shimmered with anticipation, Cael felt the weight of the prophecy settle fully upon him. The path ahead was perilous, and the outcome uncertain, but he knew one thing for certain. The future of two worlds now rested in his hands. The blood-red moon rose high over the grove of whispers, its light casting the ancient battlefield in hues of fire and shadow. The grove, long dormant, thrummed with a pulse older than the Vale itself, as if it had been waiting centuries for this moment. Gnarled trees surrounded the clearing, their branches twisted into unnatural shapes, reaching toward the sky as silent witnesses to what was to come. Prince Cael stood at the edge of the grove, flanked by Liora and Kaelthar. The tension between them was almost unbearable. Liora's radiance was dimmed, her golden glow muted, as though the weight of centuries of conflict pressed heavily upon her. Kaelthar, too, seemed different, his icy aura flickering, as if the cold certainty he carried was beginning to crack. This is madness, Cael murmured, his breath visible in the unnatural chill of the grove. You would risk your lives for a ritual that may doom us all. It is the way of the Vale, Kaelthar said, his tone flat but his eyes betraying the faintest flicker of doubt. The ritual of accord demands a resolution. There is no peace without sacrifice. Liora turned to Cael, her amber eyes searching his face. Do you think I wish for this? She asked softly. But we have no choice. The clans will not yield without the stone, and the stone will not be whole without the ritual. This is how it has always been. Kael clenched his fists, frustration boiling beneath his calm exterior. Perhaps it is time to change what has always been. Before either fairy could respond, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. The grove itself seemed to awaken, its trees creaking and groaning as the ground beneath their feet began to glow faintly. Patterns of light and shadow spiraled outward, forming a circle that pulsed like a heartbeat. The ritual had begun. From opposite sides of the grove, Liora and Kaelthar stepped into the circle. Their wings flared, catching the eerie red glow of the moon, and their forms seemed to grow taller, more luminous. They were no longer merely fairies, they were champions, avatars of their clans, their power distilled into something primal and ancient. Champions of summer and winter. A voice boomed, echoing through the grove. It was not a voice that belonged to any one being, but to the Vale itself, deep and resonant, laced with 1,000 whispers. You stand here to honor the ritual of accord, the fate of your clans, and the balance of the Vale rest in your hands. Begin. With that single word, the grove erupted into chaos. Liora moved first, her body a blur of light as she unleashed a wave of golden energy. It streaked across the grove like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. But Kaelthar was ready. He raised his hands, and a wall of frost burst forth, meeting the golden light in an explosion of sparks and ice. The two fairies clashed, their powers colliding in bursts of heat and cold that rippled through the grove. Trees bent and groaned under the force, their branches splintering as the ground beneath the champions cracked and smoldered. But Kael saw something that neither Liora nor Kaelthar seemed to notice. Their attacks, though powerful, were not aimed to kill. They were testing each other. Their strikes, precise but restrained. Beneath their hostility was something else. Hesitation, perhaps even a reluctant respect. As their battle raged on, Kael stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Stop!" he shouted, his words carrying a power he did not understand. The grove fell silent for a moment, both champions turning to him with startled expressions. "This is not a duel," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of energy swirling around him. "This is a cycle of mistrust and vengeance that has bound you for centuries, and it will never end unless one of you is willing to trust the other." Kaelthar's icy gaze narrowed. "You speak of trust as if it were a weapon. Trust is a luxury we cannot afford." "And yet," Kael said, stepping further into the circle, "you hesitate to strike her down. You hesitate because, deep down, you know this is wrong. The Vale demands unity, not division. The Ember Stone cannot be restored by destruction. It must be forged through understanding." Liora's glowing form flickered, her gaze softening as she lowered her hands. "What would you have us do, Prince? The ritual is bound by ancient magic. We cannot simply walk away." "Then change the ritual," Kael said, his voice rising. Make it a test, not of might, but of trust. Let the Vale see that your strength lies in your unity, not your power. For a long moment, the grove was silent, the tension so thick it seemed to weigh the very air. Then, slowly, Liora and Kaelthar turned to face each other. Kaelthar extended his hand, his expression guarded but earnest. If you are willing to trust, I will do the same. Liora hesitated, her eyes searching his, before she reached out and took his hand. The moment their hands met, the grove erupted in light. The fragments of the Ember Stone, hidden within each champion, began to glow. They rose into the air, drawn together by an invisible force. The light grew brighter and brighter until it engulfed the entire grove, blinding in its brilliance. When it finally subsided, the Ember Stone hovered between them, whole and radiant once more. The grove was silent, but the air felt lighter, freer. The ritual of accord had not been broken, it had been rewritten, and in that moment, a miracle had been born. The light of the restored Ember Stone cast the grove of whispers in a golden glow, soft and warm, banishing the chill that had lingered for centuries. The stone hovered between Liora and Kaelthar, its light pulsating gently, as if alive and breathing. The grove, once fractured and broken by conflict, now hummed with a strange and quiet peace. For a moment, no one spoke. Leora's amber eyes glistened, her face caught between awe and disbelief. Kaelthar stood as if rooted to the ground, his icy exterior melting away to reveal an expression not of triumph, but of wonder. Between them, the Ember Stone radiated a warmth neither of their powers could claim as their own. "It's whole," Liora whispered, her voice trembling. Kaelthar's gaze softened, his hand still clasped in hers. "Not by our strength," he said, his tone low and reverent, "but by trust." Prince Cael, standing just outside the golden circle of light, felt the weight of the moment settle over him. His breath caught in his throat as he stepped forward, the glow of the Ember Stone illuminating his face. He had not expected this, not truly. A part of him had doubted the prophecy, doubted his role, doubted that peace was possible. Yet here it was, shining before him, a miracle born not of battle, but of faith. As he approached, the Ember Stone began to descend, its glow intensifying. It hovered just above the ground, and Cael felt an invisible pull toward it, a beckoning he could not resist. "Prince Cael." The voice of the Vale resonated once more, its ethereal timbre filling the grove. "You have rewritten what was thought immutable. The ritual of accord, bound by ancient magic, has been transformed by your heart and your will." The ground beneath the prince's feet vibrated faintly, and the light of the Ember Stone shifted, casting intricate patterns on the grove's floor. The Vale's voice grew softer, almost tender, as it continued. "Through trust, you have mended the fractures of two worlds, mortal and fairy, summer and winter balance has been restored. Yet know this, the miracle is fragile, as all things born of trust must be. Guard it well, For the bonds forged this day must endure trials yet to come. As the voice faded, the Ember Stone sank to the earth, its glow spreading outward in a wave that rippled through the grove. Where the light touched, the land came alive. The gnarled trees straightened, their branches flowering with blossoms of gold and silver. The cracked earth mended, grass sprouting in soft, verdant waves. Even the air seemed to hum with renewal, carrying the faint scent of blossoms and frost, a perfect harmony of summer and winter. The grove was silent, but the air felt lighter, freer. The ritual of accord had not been broken, it had been rewritten. And in that moment, a miracle had been born. The light of the restored Ember Stone cast the grove of whispers in a golden glow, soft and warm, banishing the chill that had lingered for centuries. The stone hovered between Liora and Kaelthar, its light pulsating gently, as if alive and breathing. The grove, once fractured and broken by conflict, now hummed with a strange and quiet peace. For a moment, no one spoke. Liora's amber eyes glistened, her face caught between awe and disbelief. Kaelthar stood as if rooted to the ground, his icy exterior melting away to reveal an expression not of triumph, but of wonder. Between them, the Ember Stone radiated a warmth neither of their powers could claim as their own. "It's whole," Liora whispered, her voice trembling. Kaelthar's gaze softened, his hand still clasped in hers. "Not by our strength," he said, his tone low and reverent, "but by trust." Prince Cael, standing just outside the golden circle of light, felt the weight of the moment settle over him. His breath caught in his throat as he stepped forward, the glow of the Ember Stone illuminating his face. He had not expected this, not truly. A part of him had doubted the prophecy, doubted his role, doubted that peace was possible. Yet here it was, shining before him, a miracle born not of battle, but of faith. As he approached, the Ember Stone began to descend, its glow intensifying. It hovered just above the ground, and Cael felt an invisible pull toward it, a beckoning he could not resist. "Prince Cael," the voice of the Vale resonated once more, its ethereal timbre filling the grove. "You have rewritten what was thought immutable. The ritual of accord, bound by ancient magic, has been transformed by your heart and your will." The ground beneath the prince's feet vibrated faintly, and the light of the Ember Stone shifted, casting intricate patterns on the grove's floor. The Vale's voice grew softer, almost tender, as it continued. "Through trust, you have mended the fractures of two worlds, mortal and fairy, summer and winter. Balance has been restored. Yet know this, the miracle is fragile, as all things born of trust must be. Guard it well, for the bonds forged this day must endure trials yet to come." As the voice faded, the Ember Stone sank to the earth, its glow spreading outward in a wave that rippled through the grove. Where the light touched, the land came alive. The gnarled trees straightened, their branches flowering with blossoms of gold and silver. The cracked earth mended, grass sprouting in soft, verdant waves. Even the air seemed to hum with renewal, carrying the faint scent of blossoms and frost, a perfect harmony of summer and winter.